I stared at the mahogany box on Attorney Morrison's desk, my hands trembling in my lap. Inside was supposed to be my sister Margaret's will. My sister, who'd run the Copper Penny Antique Shop in Burlington, Vermont for 43 years. My sister, who never married, never had children, and who I'd helped every other weekend for the last decade while my husband Tom was still alive. "Mrs. Walsh, are you ready?" Attorney Morrison asked gently. Before I could answer, the door burst open. My nephew Tyler strode in, his wife Brittany clicking behind him in heels that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. They were supposed to be in Boston. Tyler had told me last week he was too busy with work to come to Vermont for the reading. "Sorry we're late," Tyler said, not sounding sorry at all. He dropped into the chair I'd been eyeing, the one with the clear view of the documents. Brittany perched beside him, already scrolling through her phone. I hadn't seen Tyler in 3 years. Not at Christmas. Not at Margaret's 75th birthday. Not even when she went into hospice. But here he was now, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Margaret's monthly rent, ready to hear what she'd left behind. Attorney Morrison cleared his throat and opened the mahogany box. Margaret Elizabeth Brennan, being of sound mind and body. The legal language washed over me until I heard my name. To my sister, Linda Marie Walsh, I leave the Copper Penny Antique Shop, the building at 247 Main Street, Burlington, Vermont, and all contents therein, including inventory, personal effects, and business accounts. Current appraised value, $980,000. The room went silent. I couldn't breathe. Tyler's chair scraped against the floor. "What? The junk shop? That can't be right. I assure you, Mr. Brennan, it is correct," Attorney Morrison said calmly. "Your aunt was very specific. She also left you a letter, Mrs. Walsh." He handed me an envelope. Margaret's handwriting, shaky, but unmistakable. "For Linda. Open when you're alone." I tucked it into my purse. Tyler was staring at me like I'd stolen something from him. "There must be a mistake," Brittany said, speaking for the first time. "Margaret always said Tyler would get the shop. She told us at Thanksgiving." "What year was that, honey?" 2015, Tyler said smoothly. Too smoothly. She definitely said that. I'd been at that Thanksgiving. Margaret had said no such thing. But I held my tongue. "The will is dated January 2024, Attorney Morrison continued. "Quite recent. And there's more. Mrs. Walsh, your sister also established a trust fund of $50,000 for the maintenance and preservation of the shop's historical integrity. She was very concerned about that." Tyler stood up. "This is insane. Aunt Margaret knew Uncle Robert, sorry. Aunt Linda, you don't know anything about antiques. You were a postal worker. For God's sake." "I was a postal worker," I said quietly. "And I helped Margaret every weekend for 10 years. I know every piece in that shop. Knowing where things are isn't the same as knowing what they're worth," Brittany snapped. "Tyler has a business degree from BU. He understands valuation, market trends, investment potential." Tyler put his hand on my shoulder. It felt like a snake coiling around my neck. "Aunt Linda, listen, I know this is overwhelming. Why don't Brittany and I help you sort through everything? We can get the shop appraised properly, find a good buyer, and you can take the money and enjoy your retirement. You shouldn't have to deal with all this stress at your age. At my age, I was 71, not dead." "I'll think about it," I said. "Great." Tyler's smile was too wide. "How about we drive over there now? Start making a list of what's valuable. What's junk? The sooner we get this organized, the sooner you can cash out and relax." Attorney Morrison interrupted. "Mrs. Walsh, there's one more thing. Your sister requested that Catherine Byrne, a certified antiques appraiser, conduct a full inventory of the shop within 30 days. She's already been contacted and will reach out to you this week." Tyler's smile flickered. "That's not necessary. I can handle. It's in the will," Attorney Morrison said firmly. Non-negotiable. Catherine Byrne was a close friend of Margaret's and knows the collection intimately. I felt something loosen in my chest. Margaret had thought of everything. The meeting ended, and Tyler insisted on driving me to the shop. I wanted to say no, but Brittany was already linking her arm through mine like we were old friends. "You must be so overwhelmed, Aunt Linda," she cooed. "Don't worry. We're here for you." The copper penny sat on Main Street like it always had. Its green awning faded but proud. The window display showed a Victorian tea set, a brass telescope, and Margaret's favorite piece, a carved wooden duck decoy from the 1890s. Tyler had a key. I didn't know he had a key. "Margaret gave it to me years ago," he said, seeing my face. "For emergencies." Margaret gave it to me years ago. The shop smelled like lemon oil and old books and Margaret's lavender perfume. I had to grip the counter to keep from crying. Tyler and Brittany immediately started walking through the aisles, picking up pieces, examining them, putting them down carelessly. "This is all junk," Tyler muttered. "Depression glass, old books, costume jewelry. Maybe there's a few decent pieces, but 900,000? The building must be worth more than the contents." Brittany held up a porcelain figurine. "This is cute. Can I keep it?" "Brittany, we're not keeping any of this trash. We're selling the whole lot." Tyler pulled out his phone. "I've got a buddy in Boston who runs estate sales. He can clear this place out in a week. We'll get maybe 20-30,000 for the inventory. Then flip the building. Location's good. Could be a coffee shop. A boutique." "Tyler," I said carefully, "I haven't decided to sell." He looked at me like I'd suggested flying to the moon. "Aunt Linda, be realistic. What are you going to do? Run an antique shop? You don't know anything about business. You'll run it into the ground in 6 months. Then you'll have nothing." His voice softened, became almost gentle. "I'm trying to help you. Uncle Tom would want me to take care of you." "Don't bring Tom into this," I wanted to scream, but I just nodded. "Tell you what," Tyler continued. "Brittany and I will stay in town for a few days. We'll help you go through everything, get things organized. Where are the business records? Bank statements, inventory lists, tax returns?" "In Margaret's office." "Upstairs." "Perfect. Let's start there." I followed them up the narrow staircase to the small office where Margaret had done her bookkeeping for 4 decades. Tyler immediately started opening drawers, pulling out files. "Aunt Linda, why don't you go home and rest?" Brittany suggested. "You look exhausted. We'll lock up when we're done here." "I'd rather stay." Tyler's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Of course. Your shop now." I sat in Margaret's chair and watched them work. Tyler photographed documents with his phone. Brittany made notes on her iPad. They spoke in low voices to each other, voices I couldn't quite hear. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Walsh, this is Catherine Byrne. I can come by the shop tomorrow at 10 a.m. to begin the inventory. Please don't let anyone remove items before then. It's important. Margaret made me promise." I typed back, "I'll be here." Tyler glanced over. "Who's that?" "The appraiser. She's coming tomorrow." Something flickered across his face. Annoyance? Fear? It was gone too quickly to tell. "Great," he said. "We'll be here too. I want to make sure this valuation is accurate. Some of these old appraisers, they inflate values to justify their fees." That night, alone in the house Tom and I had shared for 43 years, I opened Margaret's letter. "Dearest Linda, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably confused about why I left you the shop. The truth is, you're the only person who ever loved it the way I do. Not for what it's worth, but for what it means. Every piece has a story, and you listen to every single one. Tyler will come. He'll tell you it's worthless. He'll pressure you to sell quickly. Don't listen to him, Linda. Trust Catherine. I've told her everything. There are some pieces in the shop worth much more than Tyler knows. Much more. But they're hidden in plain sight, mixed in with the ordinary things. because that's how I kept them safe. Catherine knows which ones. Let her show you. The shop is your future. It's also your protection. Don't let Tyler or anyone else convince you that you're too old, too ignorant, too incompetent to run it. You are brilliant. And you are strong. And you were the best sister anyone could ask for. Guard the shop until Catherine comes. Trust your instincts. And remember, the most valuable things are rarely the ones that shine the brightest. All my love, Margaret. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. What did she mean, hidden in plain sight? The next morning, I arrived at the shop at 9:30. Tyler and Brittany were already there, inside, going through boxes in the back room. How did you get in? I asked. I told you, I have a key, Tyler said. We wanted to get an early start. There's a lot to sort through. I asked you to wait for the appraiser. Aunt Linda? We're just organizing, making her job easier. Tyler gestured to a pile of items on the counter. See? We've already separated out the obvious junk. These carnival glass pieces, these old picture frames, this costume jewelry, probably worth $50 total. We can donate it to Goodwill. I looked at the pile. I recognized a green carnival glass bowl Margaret had bought at an estate sale in Maine. She'd been excited about it, though I couldn't remember why. Let's wait for Catherine, I said firmly. Brittany sighed. This is going to take forever if we have to ask permission for every little thing. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman in her mid-50s walked through the door. She wore jeans, a simple blue sweater, and carried a large leather bag. Her hair was gray, pulled back in a practical ponytail. Linda? She asked, her voice warm. Catherine, thank you for coming. She hugged me like we were old friends, then pulled back and looked around the shop. Her eyes went immediately to the pile on the counter. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her hand tighten on her bag. I'm Tyler Brennan, Tyler said, extending his hand. Margaret's nephew. I have a business degree from BU, so I understand valuation processes. I'll be observing to make sure everything's done properly. Catherine shook his hand briefly. Of course. This will take several days, possibly weeks. I'll be documenting every piece, checking provenance, comparing to auction records and market values. Weeks? Brittany laughed. For this stuff? A couple days? Tops. Catherine smiled politely and set her bag on Margaret's desk. She pulled out a camera, a laptop, forms, and a jeweler's loupe. Let's start with what you've already pulled out, she said, gesturing to the counter pile. She picked up the green carnival glass bowl first, turned it over, examined the bottom with the loupe. Northwood Glass Company, she murmured. Grape and cable pattern, circa 1910. Green is the rarest color in this pattern. She looked at Tyler. Did you know that when you put this in the donate pile? Tyler shrugged. It's just green glass. Catherine typed more notes. Current auction value for a piece in this condition. Approximately $1,800. Brittany's mouth fell open. Tyler's face went red. That can't be right, he said. It's a bowl. Catherine continued through the pile. A picture frame Tyler had dismissed. Sterling silver, Tiffany Studios. Worth $3,000. Costume jewelry. Actually Victorian morning jewelry with genuine seed pearls. Worth $2,000 for the set. On and on. Tyler's face grew darker with each revelation. I'll need to examine everything in the shop, Catherine said calmly. Mrs. Walsh, is there an office or back room where I can work without disruption? Upstairs, I said. Perfect. I'll start bringing up pieces to document. For the next 3 hours, Catherine worked methodically. Tyler and Brittany followed her around like nervous shadows, watching everything she did. Tyler took photos of her photos. Brittany kept asking questions. How do you know that's real? Who would even buy this stuff? Are you sure about these values? Catherine answered politely, but didn't stop working. Around 1 o'clock, she paused in front of a dusty lamp in the corner. It was hideous, honestly. brown and yellow glass, shaped like, I wasn't even sure what. I'd always thought it was ugly. Catherine picked it up gently, like it was made of spider webs. She turned it slowly, examining every inch. Her face went very still. Mrs. Walsh. Could you come here, please? I walked over. Tyler and Brittany crowded behind me. Do you know what this is? Catherine asked. An ugly lamp? I ventured. She smiled. It's a Tiffany Studios dragonfly lamp, probably from around 1900. Margaret told me about it, but I'd never seen it in person. She pointed to the base. See the signature? LCT. How much? Tyler's voice was hoarse. Catherine took more photos, measured, documented. I'll need to verify with experts, but based on similar pieces that have sold at auction in the last 2 years, somewhere between $65,000 and $85,000. The room spun. I sat down, hard, on a wooden chair. That's insane, Tyler said. It's been sitting in the corner gathering dust. If it was worth that much, Aunt Margaret would have. Would have what? Catherine interrupted quietly. Advertised it? Put it in the window? Made it easy to steal? She looked at him steadily. Margaret knew exactly what she had. She kept her most valuable pieces hidden in plain sight, mixed in with ordinary things, so people like you wouldn't know what they were. People like me? Tyler's voice rose. What's that supposed to mean? It means your aunt was a brilliant businesswoman who understood that not everyone needed to know the full value of her inventory. Catherine turned to me. Mrs. Walsh, I'm going to need to see Margaret's private records. She kept a second set of books, documenting the real provenance and value of certain pieces. Do you know where they are? I thought of the office, the drawers Tyler had been rifling through. No, she said they'd be in a safe place. Somewhere only you would think to look. I closed my eyes, thinking, where would Margaret hide something from Tyler but leave it for me? The house, our childhood home, where I'd found her 2 months ago, sleeping in her favorite chair. Gone peacefully in the night. I still had the keys. I hadn't been able to go back since. I think I know, I said. Catherine nodded. Good. We'll go together after I finish here today. Tyler, Brittany, thank you for your time. I'll be working here for the next several days. I'd prefer to work alone to maintain the integrity of the inventory. We're staying, Tyler said flatly. This is my family's shop too. Actually, it's Mrs. Walsh's shop, Catherine said. According to the will, and as the appraiser of record, I have the right to restrict access during the formal inventory process. It's standard procedure. Tyler looked at me. Aunt Linda, you can't seriously. I trust Catherine, I said. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. You can come back when the inventory is complete. This is ridiculous, Brittany hissed. Robert, tell her. It's Tyler, he snapped. And Aunt Linda, I'm trying to help you. This woman could be telling you anything. You have no way to verify what she's saying. She could be inflating values, planning to what? Catherine's voice was sharp now. Margaret was my best friend for 20 years. I was with her the day before she died. I held her hand and promised I would make sure her shop, her legacy, went to someone who would treasure it. That's what I'm doing. Tyler pulled out his phone. I'm calling our family lawyer. Please do, Catherine said calmly. Have him contact Attorney Morrison. Everything I'm doing is spelled out in Margaret's will, including the fact that if anyone interferes with the inventory process, they forfeit any potential inheritance claims. Tyler went pale. What inheritance claims? She left me nothing. She left you a collection of first edition books, valued at approximately $12,000, but only if the inventory is completed without interference. Catherine's smile was cold. Your choice. After they left, slamming the door behind them, Catherine sagged against the counter. I'm sorry, I said. Tyler was always difficult. Margaret warned me. She also told me he'd been calling her for the last 2 years, asking about the shop, suggesting she sell it, retire to Florida. He'd even sent her brochures for retirement communities. Catherine pulled out a folder from her bag. She documented every call, every visit, every pressure tactic. She was worried he'd try to have her declared incompetent. A chill ran down my spine. He wouldn't. He would. And he'd succeed, too, if she didn't have documentation proving otherwise. That's why she set all this up. The will, the inventory requirement, the trust fund. She was protecting you and the shop from him. That evening, Catherine and I drove to Margaret's house. The key stuck in the lock, like it always had. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Margaret's reading glasses on the side table, her crossword puzzle book, the blue afghan she'd been crocheting. Where would she hide something from Tyler but leave it for you? Catherine asked. I walked through the small house, remembering the kitchen, where we'd baked cookies as children, the bathroom, where we'd given each other terrible haircuts, the bedroom we'd shared until I married Tom, the closet, Margaret's closet, which still smelled like lavender and mothballs. On the top shelf, behind a stack of old hat boxes, was a lockbox I'd never seen before. It was heavy. The key was taped to the bottom. Inside were ledgers, receipts, auction records, provenance documents, and a letter addressed to Catherine. She knew, Catherine whispered, reading it. She knew Tyler would come sniffing around. She documented everything, what she paid for pieces, what they were really worth, where she'd hidden them in the shop. She looked at me, eyes shining. Linda, your sister was sitting on a gold mine. The Tiffany lamp is just the beginning. According to this, there's a Paul Revere silver bowl, a Chippendale chair, a collection of signed Steuben glass, and oh my God, a painting she thought might be a John Singer Sargent study. How much? I whispered. Catherine did rapid calculations on her phone. Conservative estimate, based on these notes, the inventory is worth somewhere between $2.1 and $2.8 million. I couldn't breathe. But the appraisal said $980,000. That was the building and the assumed value of inventory as a going concern. Margaret deliberately lowballed the inventory value for tax purposes and to keep people from asking questions. But the real value, Catherine showed me the ledger, item after item, carefully documented. She spent 43 years quietly buying undervalued pieces at estate sales, auctions, from people who didn't know what they had. She had an incredible eye. Why didn't she tell me? Maybe she was waiting for the right time. Or maybe, Catherine's voice softened, maybe she knew she didn't have much time left, and she wanted to leave you something that would take care of you for the rest of your life. Something Tyler couldn't touch. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, Tyler was waiting at the shop when I arrived. We need to talk, he said. His voice was different. Harder. The shop doesn't open until 10. This isn't about the shop. Well, it is. But Aunt Linda, I'm worried about you. Brittany and I have been talking, and we think you might need help, making decisions, managing things. It's a lot for someone your age. There it was, the thing I'd been dreading. I'm fine, Tyler. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're being manipulated by some appraiser who's probably inflating values to justify a bigger fee. You're making irrational decisions about a business you know nothing about. And frankly, you've seemed confused lately. Forgetting things. Getting disoriented. I'm not confused. Yesterday you couldn't remember where Aunt Margaret kept her records. Last week at the funeral, you called me Thomas twice. He pulled out his phone, showed me photos. See? This is from the reception. You look lost, disoriented. The photos showed me standing alone, staring into space. I'd been thinking about Margaret, grieving, but in the photos I looked fragile, confused. Tyler, what are you doing? I'm trying to help you. I've already talked to a lawyer about getting a medical evaluation just to make sure you're capable of handling this kind of financial responsibility. It's for your own protection. The door opened. Catherine walked in, took one look at Tyler's face and my face, and stepped between us. Mr. Brennan? This is inappropriate. Mrs. Walsh is clearly competent and doesn't require your assistance. And you are? Tyler's voice dripped contempt. Oh, right. The appraiser who's probably scamming my aunt out of thousands in fees while convincing her that junk is treasure. Real convenient for you. Catherine pulled out her phone, tapped something, and held it up. It was a recording app. I'm recording this conversation, she said calmly. For Mrs. Walsh's protection, please continue explaining how you think your 71-year-old aunt, who worked for the Postal Service for 30 years and managed her own finances all that time, is suddenly incompetent the moment she inherits something valuable. Tyler's face went purple. You can't record me without permission. Vermont is a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm part of, and I'm making myself part of this one. She turned to me. Linda, has Tyler threatened to have you declared incompetent? Yes, I said quietly. Has he suggested you need a guardian or medical evaluation? Yes. Has he pressured you to sell the shop quickly? Yes. Has he attempted to access business records without your permission? I thought of him rifling through Margaret's desk. Yes. Catherine stopped recording. Mr. Brennan, elder financial abuse is a crime in Vermont. So is intimidation and coercion of a vulnerable adult. What you're doing right now could result in criminal charges. Would you like me to continue recording, or would you like to leave? Tyler stared at her, then at me. You're making a huge mistake, Aunt Linda. When this all falls apart, when you lose everything because you trusted the wrong person, don't come crying to me. He left. The door slammed so hard, the bell fell off. I sank into a chair, shaking. He's my nephew, Tom's sister's son. I held him when he was a baby. I know, Catherine said gently. But that baby grew into a man who sees you as an obstacle to money he thinks should be his. Margaret knew. That's why she protected you. Over the next week, Catherine completed the inventory. Every day brought new discoveries. A Chinese vase worth $30,000. A signed Tiffany lamp. Another one, worth $45,000. A collection of vintage Rolex watches in a desk drawer, worth a combined $60,000. Tyler and Brittany drove by the shop every day. Sometimes they'd park across the street and just watch. Once, I saw Tyler talking to a man in a suit, both of them staring at the shop. It made my skin crawl. He's not going to give up, Catherine said. Men like him never do. You need to prepare. For what? Legal action. He'll probably try for guardianship, claim you're incompetent. You need to get ahead of it. She helped me find a lawyer, a sharp woman named Rebecca Chen, who specialized in elder law. Rebecca was blunt. They'll need medical evidence that you're not capable of managing your affairs. That means psychiatric evaluation, cognitive tests, witnesses who'll testify you're confused or erratic. Do they have any of that? I don't think so. Good. Let's make sure they can't get it. I want you to have a full cognitive evaluation done by a doctor of your choice. We'll put it on record that you're completely competent. I also want character witnesses, friends, neighbors, anyone who can testify to your mental state. I thought of my book club, my church group, the neighbors I'd lived beside for 40 years. I can do that and document everything Tyler does. Every call, every visit, every threat. We'll need it if this goes to court. It didn't take long. 2 weeks after the inventory was completed, Tyler filed for emergency guardianship, claiming I was being financially exploited by Catherine and wasn't mentally capable of managing a multi-million-dollar estate. The court date was set for 3 weeks away. Rebecca assembled our defense like she was preparing for war. The cognitive evaluation came back perfect. My doctor wrote a letter stating I was in excellent mental health, sharp as ever, fully capable of managing my own affairs. My minister wrote a letter. My book club wrote letters. My neighbor, who'd watched me manage Tom's complex estate after he died, wrote a letter. Rebecca also subpoenaed Tyler's phone records and found something interesting. A series of calls to real estate developers in Burlington made the day after Margaret's will reading. He'd been shopping the property before he'd even tried to pressure me into selling. The hearing was in a small courtroom that smelled like old wood and stress. Tyler sat with his lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit. I sat with Rebecca, Catherine beside me for support. Tyler's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a confused elderly woman being manipulated by an opportunistic appraiser. He showed the photos of me at the funeral, looking lost. He brought up the fact that I'd never run a business before, that the responsibility was too much, that I'd already made questionable decisions. Then Rebecca stood up. She presented my cognitive evaluation, my doctor's letter, the character witnesses. She showed Tyler's phone records, his calls to developers. She played Catherine's recording of Tyler threatening me, and then she brought out Margaret's letters. Your Honor, Rebecca said, Margaret Brennan knew her nephew would do exactly this. She documented his behavior for 2 years before her death. Phone calls pressuring her to sell, visits where he suggested she was getting too old to manage the shop, brochures for nursing homes he sent her, unsolicited. She handed the judge a thick folder. Margaret's documentation. Every call, every visit, every manipulation attempt, all dated, all detailed. Margaret Brennan protected her sister because she knew Tyler Brennan would try to take what she'd left her. This guardianship petition isn't about protecting Mrs. Walsh. It's about gaining control of a valuable estate. The judge read through the documents slowly. Tyler's face got redder and redder. Mr. Brennan, the judge said finally, did you contact real estate developers about selling your aunt's property before this guardianship petition was filed? Tyler's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. I was exploring options, Tyler said. For Aunt Linda's benefit, without her knowledge or permission? Silence. Your Honor, Rebecca said. We'd also like to note that Mr. Brennan has a key to the property that Mrs. Walsh didn't know about and has used it to access the shop without permission. He's removed documents and attempted to interfere with a court-ordered inventory. The judge looked at Tyler over her glasses. Is this true? I was just trying to help organize things. By going through private business records without the owner's consent? The judge closed the folder. I'm denying the petition. Mrs. Walsh is clearly competent to manage her own affairs. Mr. Brennan, you are hereby ordered to return any keys you have to the property and to cease all contact with Mrs. Walsh, except through her attorney. If you violate this order, I'll hold you in contempt. She banged her gavel. It was over. Tyler and Brittany left without looking at me. His lawyer followed, already on his phone. Rebecca squeezed my shoulder. You did great. Margaret did great, I said, my voice shaking. The next month was a blur. Catherine finished the inventory. The final total was $2.6 million in contents, plus the building value. She helped me hire a business manager to run the day-to-day operations of the shop while I learned. She introduced me to auction houses, collectors, other dealers. I decided to keep the shop open, just like Margaret had. Not because I needed the money, but because it was Margaret's legacy, and now it was mine. I renamed one corner Margaret's Corner and put her favorite pieces there, the carved duck decoy, a Victorian photograph album, a set of blue transferware she'd loved. Not for sale, just for memory. Tyler sent one final letter, through his lawyer, offering to help me manage the estate in exchange for a percentage. Rebecca sent back a letter explaining that any further contact would result in a restraining order. I heard through the family grapevine that he'd gotten divorced 6 months later. Brittany apparently didn't like being married to someone who'd lost a multi-million-dollar inheritance. I felt a little bad about that, but not much. 1 year after Margaret died, I was rearranging a display when I found a small envelope tucked inside a silver teapot. My name, in Margaret's handwriting, Linda, If you found this, it means you kept the shop. I knew you would. You always were the stubborn one. I'm sorry I never told you about Tyler, about what he was planning. I didn't want to worry you while Tom was sick, but I knew he'd come for the shop eventually. I'm glad I could give you the tools to fight him. The shop is yours now. Do with it what makes you happy. Sell it. Keep it. Turn it into something new. I don't care, as long as it's your choice, not Tyler's. You were the best sister, Linda. The very best. All my love, always, Margaret. I stood there in the afternoon sunshine, surrounded by treasures worth millions, and cried, not sad tears, grateful ones. Margaret had given me more than money. She'd given me purpose, protection, and proof that I was stronger than I'd ever known. The Copper Penny Antique Shop is still open. I'm there most days, learning something new about every piece. Catherine stops by twice a week to share a cup of tea and talk about her latest finds. Sometimes I catch myself talking to Margaret, telling her about a new acquisition or a particularly good sale. I like to think she hears me. I like to think she's proud. And every time I look at that ugly Tiffany lamp now properly displayed in a place of honor, I smile. Because Margaret was right about everything. The most valuable things are rarely the ones that shine the brightest. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows how to look.